Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our first part of English video lesson. Today, we are going to explore one of the most beautiful and famous nature poems in English literature, that is Daffodils, written by William Wordsworth. Dear students, this poem is loved the most because it shows how nature can fill our hearts with joy, peace, and inspiration. Before we begin the poem, let's take a quick look at the life of the poet William Wordsworth, who he was and why did he love nature so much. William Wordsworth was a famous English poet who lived in a beautiful place called the Lake District, where there were hills, lakes, trees, flowers everywhere. Many of his poems talk about the beauty of nature, which is why he is famously called nature lover. Dear students, do you know how this beautiful poem was born? Let's see how this poem came to life. One day Wordsworth was walking with his sister Dorothy near a lake when they saw thousands of golden daffodils growing beside the water. The daffodils were moving gently in the breeze and looked like they were dancing. This beautiful scene stayed in Wordsworth's heart, and later he remembered it and wrote this poem. Even after many years, whenever he thought of those daffodils, he felt peaceful and happy again. Dear children, before we begin with the poem, remember this poem has 4 stanzas with 6 lines in each stanza, making a total of 24 lines in this poem. Now, here, the magical experience of the poet begins, where he tells us what he saw on that peaceful day. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Here the poet says that he was traveling aimlessly, that is, without any purpose, just like a cloud, over the hills and valleys of the mountainous Lake District in England. At that time, suddenly, he came across a large number of golden daffodils beside the lake and under the trees, and their sight surprised him and mesmerized him to the extent that his lonely moment got filled with beauty, and he was lost in peaceful thoughts. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Here the poet tells us that the line of daffodils was so long that it looked like a line of shining stars in the sky. Just as stars are spread across the Milky Way, likewise the daffodils were spread along the edge of the lake. He says he saw 10,000 flowers at a glance, which shows that there were many flowers dancing happily in the breeze. So in this stanza, the poet wants us to feel the beauty, brightness, and huge number of daffodils. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. Now in this third stanza, the poet compares the movement of the flowers with the waves of the lake. The waves were also dancing, but the daffodils, they looked even happier and more lively than the water. Just looking at those cheerful daffodils filled the poet's heart with joy. He says that no poet could be sad when such beautiful flowers are dancing in front of him. So, dear children, This stanza tells us how nature's beauty brings happiness to the human heart. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. In this last stanza, the poet talks about what happens when he's alone at home. Sometimes he lies on his couch, sofa, feeling quiet, thoughtful, or a little lonely, and suddenly the memory of the daffodils comes back into his mind. This memory lights up his heart and fills him with happiness again. He then calls this feeling the bliss of solitude, which means the joy that comes when we are peacefully alone. The daffodils continue to give him joy even long after he has gone home. So, this is how, children, the poem ends. But the poet conveys a vital message. That is, nature is a source of great energy that can rejuvenate our soul in sadness or loneliness. So, dear children, that is the magic of William Wordsworth's Daffodils. A simple walk by the lake became a memory of joy for a lifetime. See you in next video. Till then, Allah Hafiz.